Greetings everyone. I'm your host uGabo Ciwashutithibo Nozinga. Umdomlapha emngqosini umsuthu ngokwakhe. Back again with another video. Yeah, today I'm gonna focus on the story Saka Isaiah Shembe, the founder with Ibandla LamaNazareth. So the reason why I'm doing these church videos and church leaders is to bring about how colonialism really affected us and how the missionaries who came with this Christianity, these mission schools, colonialism was to wipe out our customs and actually look down on our customs so that we become westernized. So it got me remembering the words of Makagavi saying that a people who don't know their past, their origin, their culture, are like a tree without roots. So that was the aim of colonialism, to especially because of we were colonized by the British, the UK, so that their culture must be dominant, a dominant culture, and our culture must be wiped out. So let me start here. Let me start in 1910 when Isaiah Shembe founded the church called Ibandla LamaNazareth. And then after his death in 1935, it led now to the church now appointing the son of the third wife, Yaga Isaiah Shembe, to become the leader from 1935 to I think 1976. I stand to be corrected. Yeah, 1976. And then after the death of, I think it was John is the name of the son. And then that's where now the squabbles started. Now the factions started. Where now you have Ebuhleni, I think Amos, if I'm not mistaken, Amos Shembe, which has a lot of members, and Eguphakameni. So I'm not gonna go deeper. I think I'll go deeper on another day on these factions because of this court battles, this fighting, and what resulted in the factions, these two factions, is because of the leadership now. It was not because of the ideologies, but it was a matter of who's supposed to be the rightful leader. That's what predominantly happens. As you can remember also the story of St. John's Apostolic Faith Mission Church, which splitted in 1972 from the Faith Mission to another faction here, St. John's Apostolic Church of Prophecy, Yagamanku, who went to start the prophecy at Motlolo. Motlolo meaning an extension, which is being led by Ramakoka. I think it's Billy Ramakoka or Enoch, I stand to be corrected. So the church Shembe was actually checking out a research that was done in a university where they went and actually took Shembe, Ibandla LamaNazareth, as a case study. Because abantu baka-Shembe, you'll recognize them. Abantu abashiya inwele, they leave their hair, they don't cut their hair, they don't eat pork, they don't drink alcohol, they don't smoke, among other things. So there's also now they've adopted two different cultures which are opposing. They've adopted Christianity and the African traditional religion, which are often contradicting and fighting, in a sense that they've incorporated them in their theology and practices. So meaning a foundation Kashembe, they focusing on the laws of Moses, the Bible, the laws umthetho kaMoshe, that when you go to the isonto Moses esontweni icathulo siyakhumulwa, then imithetho kaMoses, and then from the words of Isaiah Shembe, said that he wanted to create this church, LamaNazareth Ibandla, that it can incorporate and actually indigenize Christianity, in a sense that he created hymns which were in Zulu, so they sounded more like Zulu traditional oral, where they would sing these hymns, and these hymns were about they've tweaked some hymns on the hymn, the Davide, amahubo ka Davide, bathathile nako bashintsha lapha nalapha. They made something ezo related to the Zulu people, and then uthathe yona, that's gonna relate to the Zulu people. And then he also borrowed naku African traditional religion, indaba yokuthi kuyahlatshwa, and then ancestral, they recognize the ancestors, which Christianity they rebuke, but no, it's ancestral worship. And to their defense, they say no, it's not ancestral worship, it's just honoring. So it's that whole back and forth. And you can remember during the apartheid time, apartheid government, actually they didn't like isonto LamaNazareth Shembe, mainly because of they never saw the church as a Christianity. Even the missionaries, they said no, this is not Christianity, but it's something else. It's like a political movement. So that's why at times they would spread myths and write bad things that's gonna discredit the church. So lucky enough, the church also stood the test of time because of they had writers in their church They had writers who could write a counter narrative that no, this is something that is tailor-made for people by South Africa, predominantly AmaZulu, so that it can incorporate their culture. But the traditionalists, they fought Nababu Shembe. They said no, because of you say you appeasing the ancestors. Why are you against indaba yomqombothi? Umqombothi ukuthi to brew umqombothi and uphuziwe in your church, and Shembe was against that. They said no. Nabo umqombothi, the traditional, it's a form of recognizing the ancestors. So they were in such a difficult position because of, as I said and I alluded on, the colonizers. That was their mission. Remember the Pope in 1454, 1455. I stand to be corrected on the year, but the Pope, during the time of the Enlightenment and the Renaissance, they saw that the resources are depleting and the Europeans are fighting each other and killing each other. So there was a decree made by the Pope that they must go where there's none Europeans and actually conquer them and put what is called the padrao, so that they can actually colonize and the culture to teach those who are non-Europeans their culture, to wipe away the indigenous culture and actually build their systems, build churches, build schools. And then so that thing, those missionaries, when they came here in South Africa with Christianity, they came with that mentality of they're going to wipe away the customs and actually colonize us to all be Christians and fall into to become also of Ibrahim faith. So those were difficult times, I can imagine, and that's why I feel for the leaders such as Boisa Shembe, May Christina Mokuturinku, Engenas, Barnabas Lechanyane, you name them, who started their own indigenous churches, because it was under very difficult times where they wanted to wipe out blackness, and actually people to leave their culture and actually fall into this Western culture, to have also a Eurocentric mindset. Because of, if you can look at 3 generations, it takes 3 generations to actually infiltrate a people. Because of the first generations, they were forced and whipped. Others were killed or arrested so that they can accept this Christianity. And then on the second generation, it's just a matter of the first generation telling the second generation that ndoda kumele ulandele umthetho, it is the way it is, because if you don't follow these rules, and actually you run a risk of being killed. And then that's why they had to make those compromises. And we are where we are now. The third generation, it's where you grow up. You've been infiltrated, manje, like you've went to the mission schools, we went to their schools, their universities, have actually programmed. Now the serious programming that you must hate yourself, because when you look at back then, black people were relegated to the bottom of the food chain, and they could see their other counterparts there when they compared their schools to the whites. They were far better. The whites were far better than the blacks, and were also divided now. The divide and conquer. We also divided with different tribes and being put. And Stephen Bantubigo speaks about this concept, a division. Yoguti. People will divide them. You put this thing called amaqaba namaqoboka. So ngesixhosa amaqaba, it means the uneducated and the illiterate, and amaqoboka means the one who are educated. So those are the things that actually separate us, that makes us not to be homogeneous. That's force that make us to kill one another as black people because of it. Something that was intentionally done. Yeah, when I'm fundile, and you can all learn from each other because if you can look at even this education yamanje. It's an education that doesn't actually empower you much. Someone actually said that something so profound. They said that they'll teach you how to speak good English, actually, but they won't teach you how to actually feed yourself. They won't teach you agriculture. I was like, Ash, and that's true. Speaking English on an empty stomach. How many unemployed graduates are there? And predominantly are black. So unemployment is a huge factor, and started way back through colonialism. Kwame Nkrumah speaks about the last leg of colonialism, which is the neo-colonialism, where the colonizer has not left, but the colonizer is here. The last leg of imperialism, and which is the most dangerous one, so that African traditional religion is being vilified, looked down upon, and then so that you lose your identity. The book of Matthew 1 speaks about the genealogy of Jesus, son of Abraham, son of Jacob. Speaks about all the 14 tribes. And then if they wipe away our custom, our tradition, and our culture, then we are doomed. We are doomed. So the people who look down on their heritage, a country who looks down on his heritage, on his culture, is bound to be doomed. It's doomed. It's bound to fail, and it creates something called the inferiority complex. And that's a form now of you are being told with you are inferior, some kind of racism, a vulgar racism, where you are being told now that you are inferior. You cannot do this, you cannot do that. And it messes up with your head, and it is passed on from generation to generation. And we can see the impact and the effect of colonialism, effect of apartheid it has on us, because of this apartheid system was declared a crime against humanity, because as black people were looked down upon. Sizwe Mpofu Walsh has a book called The New Apartheid, where he speaks about the autopoiesis, that apartheid has different forms and it evolves and transforms itself. It's like a snake which has 7 heads. It's like a deadly virus. Vulalala, then comes back again. Here we are. So without deviating much, I just wanted to bring out that context, and I'm gonna do a series about Babu Isaiah Shembe, because this was a very powerful man who was born in 1867 and died in 1935. So I'm gonna also touch on his friendship with John Langalibalele Dube, who was the first president of the South African Native National Congress, SANNC, which later became ANC, which now is the current party which is leading, is governing under the leadership of Cyril Matamela Ramaphosa. He succeeded Jacob Gedleyihlekisa Zuma, a man who Cyril Ramaphosa who promised us the new dawn. He even quoted Hugh Masekela, Tumamina, oh Tumamina ezizwe izoya githandaze. The new dawn, which has brought us excessive amounts of load shedding. We are load shed, currently on stage 6. The corruption, it's no longer endemic, it's systemic, it's bad. Even Ubaba Credo Motwa foresaw that this is gonna happen, prophesied, and actually said that when Ubabu Thabo Mbeki was being elected as a president, he said that on his second term, he won't finish his second term, and they're gonna come another president, and on the tenure of that president, then they're gonna come out the red ends, which will be led by a young person, gonna cause a division, and then that president will also be succeeded by another president who's gonna come and actually take away Umbuso and give it back to those who colonize us, to those who conquered us, to those who treated us like secondary citizens, to the minority, to the numerical minority, which is the cultural majority. That's the aim of the colonialism, was to that the Christianity must be dominant. If you can look at the Arab, the Muslim, it's dominant religion, especially here in Africa, up and up north, on the western side and the eastern side of Africa. so that you may be in this matrix, so that they can continue taking our resources, our diamonds, which are there in the UK, the United Kingdom. That's why sometimes when you read history, you'll get angry of where we come from, how our parents suffered, how people lost their lives. 1970 students uprising, 1976, always had to fight in this country of ours, and our leaders are being captured. These political parties, they act as a pacifiers. They are the project managers. They're managing the masses so that we don't revolt. And they are being given these trinkets, your little house, a car, and some shares in these multinational companies, these conglomerates, these oligarchs who run these oligopolies. Valley. I'll continue with the stories. It's Shembe. It was only just part one and giving context of where we come from as a people, our struggles, our suffering. Yeah. Peace.